This is a Side Targets episode of Into the Greenwood. This is the series where Richard Hopkins Lutz and myself, Thaddeus Papke, take a look at the films and shows that take our outlaw hero out of the Middle Ages, or otherwise feel more Robin Hood adjacent than one would expect from a typical entry in our Splitting Arrows series. And while the Splitting Arrows series is carefully curated to look at how Robin Hood films have changed over time, these side targets will be selected at random, so Rick and I will never quite know what we're in for. Enjoy.
Why does it just say random Italian Robin Hood movie?
Don't you miss the random weird Italian Robin Hood movies?
You know, on a certain level, I loved that because they were so random and weird.
Yeah. It's how we would get pirates and kung fu monks into our Robin Hood stories.
Yes. My disappointment that the kung fu one was not better than it was palpable.
Yeah, my disappointment that the pirate one wasn't better than it was is also palpable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing about it is I will say, like, the pirate one, at least, you had some fun side characters. Like, the Robin Hood was a disappointment.
Yeah,
but
that's
overall,
true. One Eye and Sweet Pea were great characters.
They were great characters. I could have just watching that movie was fun just for them. But
yeah, listeners, check out some of the earlier Splitting Arrows episodes of the podcast if you have not heard those.
Yes.
So you can see the wheel now, though. Yeah,
I can, in fact, see the wheel.
All right. Are you ready to find out
ready.
what we're watching?
I'm sitting here with bated breath. It's spinning. Robin and the Hoods.
Robin and the Hoods. Okay, so it's like a modern day young adult fantasy version, which I have not seen yet. It's kind of waiting for this opportunity to watch it. Robin and the Hood. So something recent and something new. All right. Well, so the description for the movie is very brief.
It is.
For the tenacious 11-year-old Robin and her loyal band of friends, the Hoods, the patch of overgrown scrubland at the end of their cul-de-sac is a magical kingdom. It was directed by Phil Hawkins, written by Stuart Benson and Paul Davidson, and it stars Darcy Ewart, Naomi Harris, and Gwendolyn Christie.
This looks like one of those.
Gwendolyn Christie people might know from as Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones.
Yes, or Captain Phasma from the recent Star Wars movies.
I honestly didn't know that was her, but she's wearing it.
It is.
All the time.
She was also brilliant as Lucifer in the first season of Sandman.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Let's see. We've also got Mark Williams as the mayor, Bruno Edgington Gibson, Gloria Ishikawa, Dexter Sol Ansel, Edison Birch, Tom Goodman Hill, Christine Bottomley, Morgana Robinson, and Lucas Wellborn. Character-wise, Darcy Ewart, her character's name is Robin. She is our presumed Robin of this film. But nobody else has names like Little John, Will Scarlet, Marion. So I'm not expecting any sort of direct adaptation, even with a child sort of one-to-one version, which we will get with Robin Hood Jr.
This feels like a I don't know, direct to video or
like a direct to streaming film.
Yeah, direct to streaming, I guess would be the words now. Man, now I feel old because then I skipped right over direct to DVD. Even just I'm in my prime.
You know, time sure marches on.
You ain't kidding. My back this morning tells me that.
It's got a high
So
audience rating.
it does. Yeah, I saw that. It's got like what, 86%?
Mm-hmm.
So that's promising, and I can be pretty forgiving of young adult stuff.
Yeah. So what we'll do now is we'll pause the recording, watch the film, and then come back. We'll discuss it. We'll probably give a very brief synopsis of what happens in the film. So it will be a spoiler-filled review, and then we're just going to discuss whether or not it hit Robin Hood elements. If somebody's a
Mm.
fan of Robin Hood, should they see this movie? In what ways did it feel like it should have been on this list or not? There's no set list of questions like there is with Splitting Arrows because these films are so different from one another. All right.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm as ready as I will ever be. I know. I'm looking forward to this.
For as long as anyone can remember, the Hoods of Longsight and our sworn enemies, the Knights of Brandlethorn, have fought for possession of a crown. And now that crown, and all the responsibility that comes with it, has fallen to me. For whoever owns the crown rules the kingdom.
I mean, the end of that movie, you knew where it was gonna go.
Yeah, although I do appreciate that I I was not expecting at the end for them to embrace as fully the like you're growing up narrative to the fact that she's there in the kingdom, but
Yeah.
and everything looks fantasy except that her and her closest friends are in their modern regular clothes.
Yes. So, well, I guess let's sum up for the the readers. So this is kind of your normal TV family movie on a certain level, obviously aimed at, kids and families.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, very much kid-friendly movie,
kid-friendly movie with
kid-aimed movie. Yeah,
yes, kid-aimed movie, slightly more drug use than expected.
that's
But
true.
then again, I look at your childhood and realize that that's probably
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
understating it.
It's
Um,
light on that score.
yeah, one character gets high at one point, and it's not a child. Let me go ahead
Yes,
and
kids don't use drugs.
kids don't use drugs. Um,
Just hang out with crazy old women who live in the forest that use them.
to be fair, that's probably actually good advice.
She
This is
legitimately reminds me of a few people I knew growing up. Quite a lot.
oh, I believe that entirely. So overall, it wasn't a bad movie. I mean,
No, no.
you nailed it with like this is a changeling movie. This is
Yes.
100%.
So let so listeners, Rick and I have known each other a very long time at this point, over 20 years. And
Almost 25. Almost.
it was 2004 we met.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
over 20, I guess.
Yeah. Because I moved to Ohio at the end of 2003 and then
Okay.
at the beginning of 2004 is when I joined the LARP group. And that's what I wanted to bring up because we met because of a LARP group. Not a
Yes.
not a like boffer style run around in the woods LARP. A
No.
world of darkness. You're hanging out on a college campus and pretending to be vampires and werewolves and changelings.
Yeah,
LARPing
listeners,
group.
you will be shocked to learn that we are nerds.
Yes, yes, very shocking, I'm sure. But I bring that up because the main characters in this movie are basically LARPers, closer to that boffer style LARP. But
A little bit, yeah.
it's basically this group of kids who are LARPing in the woods.
Well,
And
and there were callbacks to LARP, like the wizard character throwing a lightning bolt that's a beanbag,
yes,
right? That is to anybody who's been around on the internet long enough and has seen that video that is probably specifically referencing.
yes,
That's
there's
that's
a
a joke for your parents, kids.
old viral clip of some people in a LARP and this one guy saying lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt. And the way that LARP works is they would throw these little satchels, very beanbag like, and if you got hit by that satchel, then you got hit by the spell that they were shouting out. And it was very much that vibe that was happening in the movie. So it's about these kids who are basically LARPing in the woods. They weirdly have these like kind of two gangs, these two factions that are both playing the same game but in opposition to one another. And then they're playing in the woods. It's near a very suburban development, but there's a big chunk of woodlands at the edge of it. A evil developer is going to come and develop out that land and get rid of the woods, and the plot is basically about the kids trying to fight against that. The way that they figure out to do it is they find evidence that there is an endangered bird that lives in that area, and if they can find proof of this bird's existence, then that will halt the construction and their kingdom, the woodland area, will be saved. And that's really the entire plot of the movie.
It is, and it follows a lot of the beats that you would expect of such a story. It does it pretty well. Production quality was good.
Yeah, it did. It had really good production quality. Every now and then, it did something clever, and
Yes.
the like gimmick of the movie is that it really transitioned back and forth, interposing between the mundane reality and this imagined reality that the kids had, this Bridge of Terabithia style fantasy world where you see the kid throwing the lightning bolt and then it transitions to you seeing a beanbag fly through the air. You see the knights riding on horseback and then you transition to seeing kids in cardboard armor riding bicycles. Sometimes in like really fun little ways, the wizard's staff is his phone on a selfie stick, and when they were showing one scene, there's like a horse being reshoed, and then it transitions to like a bicycle chain being put on a bicycle. Just fun little bits like that. And at times, the cinematography was quite nice in terms of like transitioning back and forth. So you were seeing like the same shot. Just with
the transitions were mostly really well done. There were a couple places where it was a little clunky, but overall, especially at the start, like in the beginning when they're kind of setting it up as the gimmick.
And they'll do epic swelling music while it's showing these sequences and people and knights, and then it cuts the music and shows just kids hitting each other with cardboard swords.
Yes.
And then goes back to the swelling music and their knights and firing arrows and everything.
And that gimmick, it worked. Like, it really worked. Like, it actually made the scenes more enjoyable.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
in a way that would have been more enjoyable than if they had just shown one or the other.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Kind of switching back and forth. Well, because honestly, it does a good job of drawing you as the audience into it, because the fantasy parts, it's you have to stretch your disbelief and everything, but by like interspersing it with the like, okay, this is what's really happening, it does kind of like go that whole, hey, remember when you were a kid and a stick could be a sword and everything. So I felt like that was because that was the thing, is like they weren't using, like in the fantasy scenes, they're using foam weapons and everything like that. They're not using like very realistic looking, they're realistic looking foam weapons, but they're foam weapons. But then when they transition over, they're using kind of homemade, swords,
cardboards and sticks and things.
And I kind of appreciate
Robyn's arrows are all suction cup arrows.
Yes, although her bow looked like a reasonably okay,
kind of junior kind of kid's bow.
Junior kid's bow.
But not one of the cheap toy ones that you would actually see come with the arrows with the suction cups.
But what was nice was there was little decorations on it. Like she put like tape and little like sequins and everything. But yeah, no, like that I thought actually it was one of those little touches that actually I kind of appreciated.
Yeah, and I want to explain for a moment the changeling comment.
Oh yes,
on this.
Sorry, I kind of diverted.
Well, it's in that same vein because it's about that interposing of the fantasy and the reality. So, Changeling the Dreaming is a role-playing game that came out in the mid-90s, and it's one that I got very heavily into back in college before I met Rick. It is a game that Rick and I have played together some. We've also played it separately. Rick played it a lot in that LARPing group before I joined. And so it's a game we both know very well and that we have a lot of nostalgia and fondness for it. And it's a game that takes place with characters that exist in the world, kind of like the kids in this movie, where there are sort of two realities: the mundane everyday reality and a fantasy reality where magic is real, where there are fantasy creatures, where people wear armor, and the idea is that you have this sort of enchanted sight and you can kind of see these sort of things side by side. And they played with that in this movie a lot. And it wasn't even just the kids that they showed in this sort of fantasy version. At one time, they go into town to visit the mayor, and who I kind of blew by it before, but that was Mark Williams, who played the Weasley father in the Harry Potter movies. It was cool seeing him. Arthur Weasley, I think.
Arthur Weasley.
Yeah, great character actor. Fantastic seeing him in the film. But like, you see a shot where it's like looks like a medieval market town, and there's a jester talking to a guardsman, and then like the view transitions again, and it's just like a policeman talking to like a street busker. And it was really effective and really brought home that sort of changeling element of these fantasy realities overlaying the mundane realities. And then the thing with the changeling game also is you have evil monsters that you might fight, but you're also fighting against the concept of banality, of things being too mundane, and trying to find imagination and dreaming in a world that sort of attempts to take that away from you. And that's the theme of this movie, because the main villain is the developer of this land, and her name is Clipboard. They never give her a real name.
They never give her a real name. And let me just say also, Naomi Harris, who played Clipboard, she read the brief. Oh my God, she is scenery chewingly, cacklingly evil. Oh, she's amazing. She's perfect. She's a pitch perfect villain for this, because even in the scenes where there's not the imagination, she is like capital E evil.
Her and Gwendolyn Christie, who plays the hippie / witch of the woods, we were clearly having so much fun with this movie, and that helps the movie because you can see how much fun the actors are having with it, and it makes it easier for you to have fun with it.
Yes, and they both do a good job. There are no phoned in performances in this movie. Absolutely not. I mean, there is definitely some overplaying, but that's okay in a movie especially like this. Having it some overplaying and some broad performances does not detract, and it can sometimes, but not in this case. I think both. I thoroughly enjoyed both all of them, and Mark Williams as well, and everything. So
and
the child actors were quite good.
Yeah, they were perfectly respectable, and sometimes they got in some really good, funny lines, like the time that the secretary referred to the wizard kid as a fat kid, and he's just like, fat wizard.
Yes, that was really good. Yeah,
a very Goonies kind of moment there.
Very Goonies kind of moment. I thought the lead actress carried things well. Like the lead child actress was able to kind of hold her own and do pretty well. I was very pleased with that.
So it was fun. There were numerous moments where I chuckled, where because they did something that was clever. They played with the concepts they were playing around with, even in like a scene that's showing the characters as knights and they're charging into battle. Like one of the kids like is delayed charging in the battle because he's still sending a text on his phone because he's still a kid. That it kind of acknowledged those little like kid like things in there.
Yeah, or what was it, like, the kid in one of the battles, like one of the kids, he gets hit by an arrow and like kind of looks down, and it's about like there's a half a beat before he's like, oh wait, I'm supposed to fall down. There was also they do actually, like, they hang a lampshade on some of the trope things. Like there's a scene where They're in the woods, and the evil business lady Clipboard has sent her minions, her construction workers, in after the kids, and the construction workers are all portrayed as orcs,
Yep.
very
Very,
very Tolkien-esque style orcs. They even have like a Tolkien-esque style map, which I thought was a
yes.
just a
That was
like
a lot
again
of
they're
fun.
hanging a lampshade at, but like
Transitioning
they're
back and forth between a Tolkien-esque map and a kid-drawn map of the area.
yeah, and the kids are all like hiding behind this tipped over, like it's like a giant mass
Yeah,
of
at the
roots or
roots of a
something.
tree that had knocked
And,
over.
and one of them literally goes, "Hey, this is just like that scene in," and they go, "Shh," and it's of course the Nazgul over the Hobbits scene, beat for beat.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Having the one person go, shh.
yes, it was a lovely little call out. Like this movie is cheesy and silly. It
It is.
is,
It is.
but it embraces it nicely.
Hmm.
It does a good job with it, right? The tropes are there, but it doesn't pretend like they aren't tropes. Like so.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, that helps
I,
it.
one of the things that I do think the movie, especially, obviously it's a movie for kids.
Mhm.
As full-grown adults, it appeals to us more than it might other adults because we have this association with games like Changeling, where we can really, as well as the fondness for movies like Lord of the Rings. So we
Mhm.
can see what they're pulling from. We can make these references to these other things that we love and have in our past. And I thought a lot during the movie whether or not I would love it as a kid. If this movie had come out when I was 8, 9 years old, would I have loved this film? And I want to say yes, but I think in actuality I probably wouldn't have.
It's a little pat.
It's a little
Um,
it's a little drawn out, and
yeah.
for as much as they try to have this like epic feel, like in a jokey like kids fighting for a thing sort of way, like, and they're fighting for their kingdom, the stakes never felt as real as they wanted them to. Oh, we're going on a quest to try to find this bird, but they don't have enough adventures along the way. They're not like running into danger. You never really feel that the kids are in danger, even when like the orc is after them. And you have a couple of characters that get caught, but nothing bad happens. It's just, oh, they're taken and
Oh yeah, I
transported out
mean
of the woods.
they're not
And,
going to show kids getting hurt,
well, well, well,
like kind of
well, I
thing.
brought
But
up the
no, I
Goonies
get it.
comparison before, and so Goonies is a movie about a group of kids that are going on this epic adventure, and they are in actual danger. And
Yeah.
even if they had played up imaginary dangers more, even if it weren't things that were real, even if we as the audience knew that they weren't real, but we were given some reason to feel like, oh, there's, I don't know, an unsafe area in the woods because there's pitfalls, because there is a dangerous creature and they see it as a dragon, like just something that would have made it feel like it had more of the epicness, even in an imaginary sense, that it kind of wanted. They went on this like quest, but then it was really abbreviated, and then we just had more interplay with their parents. It didn't really pull as much as it wanted, and it made it feel overlong to me.
I could see that. I mean, overall, yeah, I mean, I feel like this movie could have been a little tighter, definitely, or a little longer,
Oh,
like
we're
if
going to
they
go
wanted to
for a
extend.
quest to find this bird. Oh, we got foiled. Now we're going to go on a quest to find the bird's eggs.
Yeah. That all I get why it was written the way it was and everything. And maybe some of this may be just slight differences between how childhood is treated in Britain, because this is a British movie made by Sky versus us, rough and rowdy American children. Uh plus remember, we're both, I'm Xenial. I think you're tail end of Xenial. I think you're right at the end, like right
Yeah,
at the last year of Gen X.
right.
Uh,
Yeah. Depends on how you,
uh,
you draw the lines.
and we were that last fiercely independent, come home when the streetlights turn on sort of thing. And it was because that's the thing is like looking at this movie, you have a bunch of children playing in the woods, unsupervised by adults. That is not a thing that happens in the United States anymore at all. Like it just doesn't. Like the
Not
culturally,
so much.
parents have been taken to court for letting their children play unsupervised in the United States. Like this is a thing, and it's I personally think it's ridiculous, but people are busybodies in the United States and can't just let their children go and do things. So I think there's probably a little bit of a cultural difference there. I don't mind that there wasn't a great danger in the woods. They kind of build up the whole thing with the witch is potentially dangerous, but I think part of it is that they don't want to portray children as being in real danger
Yeah.
just as a thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Like you don't see that kind of thing anymore. You don't really see like a Goonies anymore.
No, it's a different world now. This is, and while this has like echoes of a little bit of Goonies, it's I mean the most shocking thing to me was actually, and spoilers obviously, was when the business lady actually killed the rare bird
Yeah.
with a crossbow. And this is not imagined. She has an actual crossbow. And not a modern one, like an older style, manual wooden one. And she kills the bird. And of course, she then keeps the dead bird in her car for like a week, and that's a little questionable.
Yeah, that would.
That would stink. Lady, there's evil and then there's gross.
Yeah, the fact that at the end they're just like, she killed the bird, it's in the trunk of her car, and then the police officer just goes and like, yeah, okay, I'll check, and it's there. She had a week. They even really laid out that it wasn't,
Yes.
because they showed the kids being depressed and disheartened for a week. Like it went through, here's Monday, here's Tuesday, here's Thursday.
Yes,
So
exactly. So I mean, it's okay. She's evil, and evil people do things like that. She also was really good at gloating.
Yeah.
She loved to gloat. But anyway, so I think that overall, I was fine with the lack of real danger stakes. The most dangerous thing that actually the kids did was like, we're going to go into an active construction zone,
Mhm.
which is a dangerous area just innately.
I mean, also legit firing even just those suction cup arrows at people's heads, which
Well,
she gets
remember,
in
it
trouble
was a
for doing.
violation of the
Not,
rules.
yes, she's not supposed to do it, but that's legit dangerous. You could, in fact, put out somebody's eye with those.
You could, so like overall, they don't want to paint the woods as a dangerous place, and I get that. So this is absolutely in that Fern Gully DNA of green space is good, capitalism is not friendly. It's not
Yeah.
your friend when it comes to these things. And I approve of these messages. I was actually reading that apparently the production, because they had a view towards sustainability and preservation of green space, they hired 50% of the costumes and sourced all the rest from charity shops.
That's a big thing here in the UK. Really
Yeah,
trying to make as much of your procurement sustainable as possible. I've gone to training sessions about that in the science center where I work.
yeah, and they also reused a lot of props and materials. So like, I think that was, kind of probably fed into kind of some of the messaging and how they portrayed things.
Yeah, so I would say that as far as like influences on this movie, I mentioned Goonies a little bit, but it's much more kind of Fern Gully and Bridge of Terabithia in terms
Mm.
of like the environmentalism through this lens of children's imagination. It didn't feel like a strong influence on it though.
Robyn Hood.
Yeah. For a movie
Yeah,
called
no,
Robin
there's
and the
zero.
Hoods.
There's zero Robyn Hood in here. And well, what's interesting is they show her with a copy of The Adventures of Robin Hood.
Yeah, a book. Like clearly
A
it's
book.
a book that matters. She says something about Robin being a legendary figure who she's
Yes.
styling herself after. Her costume is this hooded leather outfit, and she's got her bow and arrows with her all the time. She's like running around City Hall and she's got her bow and arrows with her.
Yes.
It's kind of great.
But
Um,
no, not a lot of Robin Hood there. It is Robin Hood in borrowed name only.
yeah, and
Uh,
just her, like none of her best friends get like called out. There's no Much, no Little John. They're like Amaya, little. I don't even remember their names.
there was little Dan,
Yeah, Little
which
Dan.
was
There was
yeah, which
Glenn
was a
was the
small child.
wizard. Amaya was kind of her second in charge, and then there was a small child named Little Dan, the leader of the rival kids who were the knights. His name was Henry. So yeah, it wasn't pulling Easter eggs related to Robin Hood. They were called the Hoods, I think, just because she named them that because the character liked Robin Hood. But that was just like these two factions of kids playing this imaginary game. One was a group of knights. One was a group of, you can't really call them outlaws living in the woods because they didn't do anything that made them outlawish. They
Free
just,
people of the land.
yeah, they just didn't wear armor. But they even very specifically called it a kingdom. And there was a whole thing about like there's a crown that her and the leader of the knights were fighting over, and whoever had the crown was the head of the kingdom, and she had the crown for most of the movie and was talking about whether she had to give up her leadership, give the crown to somebody else, which was a metaphor for her growing up. So it had you most like more Peter Pan and kind of Lost Boy
Yeah.
influences in there again, rather than anything Robin Hood. But the whole like presentation of her being like the queen, the ruler of this kingdom, also made it not feel very Robin Hood. There were only like rebels in that they were rebelling against the construction company trying to tear apart the forest. But it was even referenced in terms of the kingdom.
Yeah. Yeah, this is not a Robin Hood movie.
No,
It is not as a movie where you have, they might have done a little bit of that to try and pull some people in with it. I don't know.
it's
Robin Hood
what
might
got
also
us to
be a
watch
little
it.
bit more relevant in Britain to kids and everything, but I don't know. I'm not a British child. So I know that will shock our listeners. But overall, like, yeah, no, it is not a Robin Hood movie. It's a fun-ish, yeah,
Yeah,
relatively.
it's a fun kids movie, and like we were saying, the visuals between them, like pulling back and forth between the fantasy and the reality, were well done. They were charming. Enjoyed watching it. It would be a fun movie to watch with kids, assuming they weren't bored by it and started just looking at their phones, which I think they would
Yeah.
kind of probably do because again, think it's a little overly long.
It's one of those movies that's made by adults for kids. And so therefore, eh. There was some things like there were some little gags, like the running gag about the like, but you'll have the kids zone with a Z.
With a
Uh,
Z. Yeah.
and I think they're referencing having the Z at the end of kids, and therefore
Oh,
fun.
I was just like, how do you spell zone without a Z?
I know, right? But it's that,
But it's
but
like
is the,
kids
but
zone.
is that whole
Okay.
thing of like, hey, we came up with this thing. Isn't that fun, kids? And it's, of course not. It's lame and commercial and terrible. But yeah, like overall, like yeah, there's a certain species of kid that would probably enjoy this. Absolutely. And it's absolutely the kind of thing where a parent would be like, "Hey, this is a thing I can watch with my child." I think overall it would actually be a slightly younger audience than the age of the children who are in the movie generally.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Because
that's why I kind of said 8 or 9, and
yeah,
the kids in the movie are mostly in their like tweens.
yeah.
It's
Like
hard to
the
imagine
the
them
lead
being
character
in
is
the
meant to
movie
be
when you're that
11,
age.
I think. So
Yeah, she's meant to be 11. I bet that actress was at least 13.
yeah, I don't know. I she did look slightly older, but that's typical.
Yeah, that's not holding that against them. She seemed perfectly fine for the age, and especially because they were doing a whole coming of age thing with the character too. It worked. She seemed the right age for the story they were trying to tell with her.
Yes, yes, yes. She was fine. It was not a 25-year-old playing a 16-year-old.
No,
Uh,
no. Or even somebody who looked like they were in their late teens or anything like that.
exactly.
She looked like the right age for somebody trying to facing that crossroads of I need to grow up, I need to put a few accept that some things in my life will change, but also I'm a kid and I don't want to let go of the fun things that I do with my friends and playing around in the woods.
Which a lot of us, we went through that. Growing up is, I comment every day about how much there's a lot of things about growing up I don't appreciate. Don't get me wrong, I like the having money part. That's nice. And the being married and having your own house is nice, but there's a lot of parts of my life where I'm like, no, no, I'm gonna keep the fun parts.
Yeah, well, see also comment about us meeting as role-playing gamers.
Yes. Now, if only my back would cooperate with the having more fun part, that would be brilliant. But I play a role playing game every single week with the
At
same
least
group.
one. Yeah.
At least one with the same table that more or less for the last 15 years. I have another game that I hang out with Robert Turk, who is a former professional goblin, and
It's true.
help him play his silly games. One of which is coming up for a Kickstarter uh,
Yes.
next month. That's
Veil of the Failed and the Fallen, which is one that
very appropriate for this, actually. In a
exactly,
lot of ways.
exactly. It's much more of a like taking the Narnia approach, the
Yes.
literal kids
Uh,
going into another world, but
if
then returning to it as adults.
Yeah, very Narnia, very The Magicians. For
Mm.
anybody who read those books or watched that television series, and you I don't know if this episode is going to come out in time for anybody to check out that Kickstarter, but I think it's safe to call him a friend of the pod.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. He's the one who joined us for the discussion of the adventures of Robin Hood in 1938.
yeah, and but he is a prolific independent RPG writer, and I help him play test his games, but also
Mhm.
we play a weekly Mage the Ascension game.
Right, which
Not weekly.
was
It's nominally every other week, but in reality, it's about once a month.
which
Just
was
because.
one of those World of Darkness games that overlapped with Changeling. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no, like I try to keep a lot of imagination in my adulthood, and I think that's important for some of us. Not everybody,
Mhm.
but some of us.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean there's lots of different ways to find joy, to exercise one's imagination, and as much as this movie was a little bit silly and tropey and campy and cheesy in various ways, sometimes it's good to have those kind of reminders about the usefulness and fun of exercising one's imagination.
Yeah, like honestly, I will say that we talked about the scenes where they kind of are interspersing the imaginary battles with the reality of play, and that gave me some nostalgia and gave me some
Mm.
happiness actually to see that, because I don't know personally, because I know more children than I would suppose, but
For
I don't
somebody
know
who
how
doesn't have kids themselves,
for
yeah.
somebody who does not have children. But I don't know how much children still play like that. I don't, genuinely, and part of me remembers playing like that as a,
Hmm.
as a child and as a 20 something. So
Yeah, in that kind of different sort of ways of playing around the same idea. Like it reminded me simultaneously of being a kid in upstate New York and running around in the woods, or being also a kid in Southern California where I also lived and running around through the canyons and areas that were pretty wild and untamed and often had, old hippies in them.
yes,
Who
let me
smoke
oh
grass.
let me
Why does anybody smoke grass?
yes, yes, that whole thing, that whole comment of like, my mom says she smokes grass. It's just
but
uh
uh, but
I
also
will
of being in my 20s and 30s and playing role-playing games too.
Yeah, and overall, like I will say that as an adult who prizes imagination and prizes play, I will say that for me, some of that stuff kind of hit pretty nicely with my nostalgia button.
Yeah.
Yeah, so stuff that there's stuff in here for some people. There's other people are going to think this movie is dreadfully boring,
Or
yeah,
just too silly.
or
Yeah.
just too silly. It is what it is. You're
Definitely
gonna be
not a movie for anyone, or not a movie for everyone. Not a
yes,
movie to watch if you're looking for anything deep, but a fun one that you could enjoy with your kids.
absolutely.
Or
This
if
is
you just
definitely
want to feel like you are a kid again for an hour and a half.
yeah.
But
It'll
if you
ping
want some kind
it'll
of
tingle
modern
those
day Robin
memories.
Hood thing, it's
Yep.
not going to be that.
It's not gonna be that. And what's interesting is like I was looking at the Wikipedia article for this, and one of the news articles they link to is some screenshots of actually Gwendolyn Christie and Naomi Harris, and the headline is behind the scenes photos of Game of Thrones and 007 star because Naomi Harris was in Skyfall in new Robin Hood movie, and it's like not so much on the Robin Hood movie part.
Yeah. No, and yeah, and it's so funny because it has all of these like things with like, oh, she's this archer who lives in the woods, and oh, there's all these knights, but then it dips so much more into a children's version of Game of Thrones. Like literally, like there's a throne that they're fighting over with a crown, and there's wizards and a witch and things. It leans
Yes,
so much, and then orcs that show up at the end. The
yes.
the clipboard, the woman, she's portrayed as a vampire, which is a fun
Yes.
little social
She
commentary.
disappeared. She like poofs into like a cloud of bats at multiple points in the movie.
So
The
it's
best
very
part,
much more fantasy
yes.
than traditionally
I
Robin Hood type things. Even something like Robin of Sherwood is not the level of fantasy
yeah.
that this is.
I will say one of the things I actually did appreciate to kind of touch on something we've covered already is they would have something that they show the fantasy thing of it, and you might mentally be going, okay, how does that relate into the real thing? And of course, they have thing where the wizard is summoning a vision, to show people, and it's actually he's got a tablet.
Yeah,
Uh, but
there
but
was
I
cute moments like that.
cute moments like that. But I liked when they had her just poof into a cloud of bats, and then she's floating over the crowd of people and everything, and she's going to be going into the woods, and it's because they put her on a cherry like a cherry picker lift, and,
Yeah,
and she's like slowly rising up in the real, and it's just, there's some nice little tongue-in-cheek moments. This movie was genuinely entertaining overall.
it was. It was. Yeah.
Um, and like I said, I enjoy it carries through that some of the actors were definitely having just some fun. Yeah, sure, they probably paid a couple bills with this, and that's okay too, because working actors are a thing. We need to
Hmm.
understand that actors work partially because they love the art and love the craft, but also this is how they pay their bills and feed their families and everything. And this is especially true of your class of your character actors and your working actors. But it's nice when they can have some fun on the production, and genuinely it shines through on their performances. I mean, even the late Christopher Plummer did Star Crash, which is a not good movie. But he did it. I believe his exact words when he was asked about it were, "That was a mortgage payment," or something like that.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, he did Star Crash. He delivers one of his kind of a Christopher Plummer-esque monologue in it, and it is. If you haven't seen Star Crash, it's one of those movies that came out to try and kind of cash in on Star Wars, on the popularity of Star Wars, and it is a charmingly bad movie.
There was a lot of those, a
It also
lot of
has
charmingly
it also
bad
has a
movies that came out in the wake of Star Wars.
it also has a fresh-faced David Hasselhoff in it.
Wow. It's
Yeah.
kind of like how there was such a rash of not so great fantasy films right after Lord of the Rings.
Yes, the same sort of thing. Oh yeah, there was a rash of those back in the day for Star Wars and
Oh
and
yeah.
everything. Um,
Kroll, Ice Pirates, so
all
many.
that. Ice Pirates, I think, is fully aware of how terrible it is. because it doesn't make it better. It just makes
Yeah,
it
it is still
aware.
pretty bad. Anyway, our first side target has been struck. Fun enough film, especially in a nostalgia factor, and especially a fun sort of story. If you like Bridge of Terabithia, but you hate that there's like, I don't know, pathos.
Yeah, if
You
you
could
want a
give this
slightly
movie a go.
lighter themes than
Yeah.
Bridge of Terabithia or Wrinkle in Time or anything like that.
Yeah, that sort of feel, but without any of the depth.
Yes, yes, but still kind of, still a message, and
Mhm.
still a a little bit of heart. I will say, there was a little bit of heart in this.
There was. It's not, yeah, it's not deep, but it's not without heart. And it was fun and had some good, clever moments. But if you're looking for some kind of modern day spin on Robin Hood, or just a Robin Hood through a child's lens, it's not either of those.
Yeah, it is not.
The movie really should have had a different title. I don't know what. They should have, instead of just calling it The Kingdom, they should have given it some name, and that could be the name of the movie, The Battle Over such and such.
But
Uh,
I don't think that would have pulled people in as much. They knew what they were doing
Probably,
with the title. Uh,
probably, but that just like in terms of the accuracy of the storytelling, the Robin Hood is just there in the title and in no other way except the fact that the lead character wears a hood and carries a bow,
yes, yes. But
which
so
she
yeah,
uses in the like very beginning, but then barely ever after.
I mean, there's a little bit, but the other thing is that a suction cup bow, not as useful against evil vampire bird killers.
Well, it's not a suction cup bow in the imagination.
That's true. It is not a suction cup bow. It is a deadly weapon of war in her imagination.
When one is in the kingdom.
The kingdom. See, like I will say that like this almost would have been more interesting as like a two-part or a three-part mini thing of
Hmm.
like 45 minutes if they'd done a little bit more world building. That would have been actually kind of a little bit interesting, but
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been as light. And this definitely aimed to be light.
Yes. Yes. I think that's why it felt overly long to me, is because it was so light and because
Yeah.
there wasn't more of the world building. So
Mhm.
it's another one of those kind of cases where I think the better version of this is either longer or shorter.
Yeah. This is not a
It is
prestige.
shorter where they just kind of keep it like it is, cut it down a little bit, make it a breezy. I feel like it would have worked better as the afternoon specials that we sometimes had growing up that were like an hour
Oh
long,
man.
as
I mean,
opposed,
it's 100 minutes. Yeah, so it's a little over an hour and a half. And that is
yeah,
a yeah, and you aren't ever checking your watch, but you do feel it just a little bit. And if they tighten it up, or like I said, if they actually like taking it like 2 1 hour things. But the
right,
problem is like you can't do like a two-part 1 hour thing and keep it lighthearted. Like it's just you can't. It has to have like some epicness at that point.
yeah.
Um
If they made it a little more epic, made it developed out the world building, fleshed out this imaginary kingdom a little bit more,
mhm.
rather than just keep everything so very vague.
Honestly, I did want to kind of get a little bit more about just what the whole like struggle was between the two nerd gangs. Uh
Yeah.
why were they, other than just for sake of play and conflict, why were they not sharing the space?
Hmm.
Because the whole thing about it is it's kind of a territory thing. The knights are relegated to this place that seems to be over by like a
Like an
uh,
underpass.
an underpass or an aqueduct or anything, and meanwhile the hoods have control of the woods. Okay, other than the caveat of Robin herself seems to dictate a lot of things, why can't they both have places in the woods? Because to be clear, it is made very clear this is a large green space.
Yeah.
uh Like you
It
see
has
a map at one
marshland.
point where like her little cul-de-sac is over here, and it's several acres. It is, quite a bit of space. So like, why? It's big enough that like they have a witches camp, which is the hippie lady camp, and it is not right on top of where they are at. Like it is a ways away, and there's a marshlands and everything. So nobody wants to be relegated to like the skate park or north of the skate park and things like that. It's like, okay, well, what? Okay, that would have been nice to have, but
or even just kind of a little bit more about like what their play and games were other than just fighting over the kingdom.
yes. So
We
there was
see
a
the
lot of
knights several times, and they seem to have nothing to do other than make war against the hoods over the kingdom. It would have been fun to at least, I don't know, see them having pretend jousts and tournaments, any sort of other play in their imaginary world.
Yeah. But again, that's a very much, you have to scratch the surface there a little bit more than I think you're meant to. And
Which is in that realm of it could be better if it was longer, more fleshed out, or better if it was shorter and just a little tighter.
Yeah. Yeah. But overall, none of this makes it a bad thing. So yeah.
Yeah. It was cute. It was fun.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it. But I didn't get the Robyn Hood. So I feel like Side Target hit as a film, miss as a Robyn Hood related film.
Yes, definitely a miss as a Robyn Hood related film. That would have been nice, seeing a little bit more of a Robyn Hood.
Even if there was just like a thing about helping invite, I don't know, like kids from a poorer neighborhood into their play space. It was so suburban.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, suburban is the word. Like, and it is very suburban, and that is, it is what it is. That's what they were aiming for.
Right. And they hit that target, but it's so far away from any Robyn Hood related themes.
Yes, agreed.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me for our first Side Targets, Rick. If you have seen Robyn and the Hoods, or if you have a suggestion for our list of Side Target films, please get in touch. You can find us on Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, or Facebook, all with the handle @IntoGreenwood. If you want to support what we're doing, it does take a while to pay for the hosting fees, to get the movies, to pay for the editing time. We've got a Patreon at patreon.com/IntoGreenwood. Any little bit helps. There's a few reward tiers there, some bonus audio. I'm going to put up something soon. Speaking of Side Targets, that was my kids and I watching the Robyn Hood themed episode of the show Amphibia.
There you go.
And we also have an account on buymeacoffee.com/IntoGreenwood if you want to just toss in a few dollars rather than commit to a single dollar a month on the Patreon, or $4 or whatever it is. Any little bit is greatly appreciated, but also just sharing the show, giving it ratings and reviews. That helps so much, especially for small independent podcasts that cannot be stressed enough. Small independent podcasts have such a hard time finding audiences, and every little share, every rating is a huge impact.
We are niche.
Yeah. So thank you so much for listening. That is, of course, greatly appreciated. And whether we're watching a Robyn Hood film next time, some more Robin of Sherwood, the television show, another Side Target, or an interview with a historian, we've got some really great ones coming up. We'll see you next time in the Greenwood.
Take it from me, don't be a do-badder, do-badder, do-badder. You'll put your foot on